St. Paul tells Timothy in tonight's second reading that we are to do three things. We are to convince other people, we are to reprimand them, and we are to encourage them. Convince, reprimand, encourage. He says it in slightly different ways at the very beginning of the reading. So he's kind of giving us this three-pronged command in two different places in the same reading. So again, convince, reprimand, and encourage. Those are very different things, obviously. If we look at those three words, to convince someone of the good news of the gospel is very different than to reprimand someone, which is very different than encouraging them. But we're called to all three: to convince other people, to reprimand, and to encourage. To do none of those is very easy. To opt out and say, I will convince no one, I will reprimand no one, and I will encourage no one. It's very easy to do that, to opt out of all three. Some people do. It's a little bit harder, of course, to say, I will do one or two of those. I will be a convincer or a reprimander or an encourager, right? A lot of times for some of us, well, for all of us, I would suggest that probably our personality leans more toward one or the other. For some people, it's fairly easy to be encouraging, and so they'll say, I'll do that, right? I'll do that all the time. And so what I'll be doing with Christianity is sort of the just 24/7 flowery Bible calendar passages. Just always encouraging, sort of things that you see on the Bible preachers on TV and those kinds of televangelist types of things. Everything's great, everything is this and that, and give me your money. That kind of encouragement, for some people, that's easy to do, and so they say, well, I'll do that always because I lean that way. Other people say, you know what, my personality is geared more towards the reprimanding. Right? So I'm going to 24/7 be talking about hellfire and brimstone. And we see that on TV too. Give me your money so that you don't go to hell, right? But it's this, whatever, so wherever we're at, right? Or maybe we're just more positive person, and so we hear encouraging, or maybe we're just more of a rule person, and so we're like, hey, I'm going to be a reprimander. I like that I can do that. But St. Paul doesn't tell Timothy, hey, pick one of these three that fits with you and don't do the other two. No, he says do all of them, and that's really hard. Because probably for us, to get whatever our personality is, one or two of those are going to be extremely uncomfortable / foreign to us, certainly not something that would come easy to us. Right? If we lean more towards being encouraging than to go challenge our friend or our brother or sister or neighbor to reprimand in that sense, that would be very hard. If you're a person who is about the rules and all that kind of stuff, and you're into, you don't have a problem saying the hard stuff, it's hard for that person to go around and also sometimes be encouraging, right? So wherever we're at, I want to just invite us to think about the fact that we're called to all of them, right? To convince. So let's look at that. I would say probably of the three, convincing other people is the thing that everybody, on average, in America today, American Catholics, is the worst at. Because we live in a culture that's very hostile that would tell us, don't. The mortal sin, the only mortal sin in our culture is to try and convince someone else of your truth, of what you think the truth is, right? So that is something that I think we all struggle with and is a real challenge for us, to go around trying to convince other people. A couple of other things that make it really hard. I was thinking about this in getting ready this weekend. Every few seconds of someone's life, someone is telling them now, with technology, with commercials, with everything, every few seconds, I would say, somebody is telling anyone who will listen, I'm here to make your life easier. I'm here to help. Or our company is here to help. Our product is here to help you, right? Every advertisement has that as its goal. Coca-Cola is here to help make your life better. Amazon is here to make your life better. Walmart, go on down the list. I'm not, whatever. All that's advertising. Our product, our people, our company is here to help. A lot of times in relationships, particularly among, younger people, yeah, I'm here to help you. I want to help you, right? Everybody's saying that. I once was listening to somebody who was talking about caring for the poor a month ago or so, giving a talk, saying the poor are at the point where they're terrified when they hear the 5 words, I'm here to help. I guess that's 4. If you apostrophe, whatever. Those 4 or 5 words, I'm here to help. Poor people learn to be terrified, and they run away from that because they've had so many people come in and tell them, I'm here to help, I'm here to help, I'm here to help, but they're not all the way. So we are inoculated as a culture against other people coming in and saying, I'm here to help you with something, but that's exactly what you and I are asked to go proclaim to people to convince them that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. So I think that's why a lot of times we have a great difficulty in doing it. A, the culture is telling us, be quiet, don't do that. But then B, the people that we're trying to talk about the gospel to, the fact that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, have already heard probably 1,000 times that day from someone else that they're here to help too. So when we're the 1,001th person who shows up and says, hey, I've got some good news for you, I'm here to help, they're like, yeah, so is everyone else. But it just gets lost, right? And so one of the things that I would suggest here, not going to belabor the point, but just one thing that I would ask us to think about in terms of trying to convince other people, preaching, evangelizing, bringing the good news of the gospel to other people, not just saying, I'm good, I follow Christ, that's good enough for me. One of the things that I've realized, I think, in my priesthood, at this point in my priesthood, is I think more and more what cuts through and makes the 1,001st presentation when you're going to somebody to try and bring them the good news of the gospel, when you're trying to evangelize, one of the things that cuts through that is actually using the name Jesus Christ. I think a lot of times certainly there are charlatans on television who are saying, I'm here to help and it's Jesus Christ, send me your money. So using Jesus Christ's name, you can do that fraudulently. But I think sometimes our message, our trying to convince other people gets lost in the noise when we try to say, you know what, I'm going to be sneaky about it. I'm not going to say Jesus. I'm not going to say Catholicism. I'm not going to say this or that. Then eventually what happens is it just starts to sound like every other New Age thing. And so a lot of times what wakes people up and is if you say some variation of, I'd like to talk to you about Jesus, or Jesus might be the thing that you're looking for. You're my friend. And I want to, the difficulty that you're in right now in your life, Jesus Christ, I've come to believe and realize and see that Jesus Christ is the answer that you're looking for, right? I think sometimes maybe we need to recapture and understand that the power of the name of Christ and its ability to cut through all the other people that are also saying fraudulently, I'm here to help you. Reprimand is the second thing. So St. Paul again, convince, reprimand, and encourage, right? Reprimand, what do we mean by that? Of course, we've talked about that probably before. If you've been here with me, I've preached about that. That to speak the truth to somebody in love, to say, look, I love you, and I see what you're doing in your life, and I see that it's bringing harm to you, and I want to call you home. Like it's a good thing. It's a charitable thing to do. If you see someone doing something that's harming themselves and you know it, we're supposed to speak up, right? Reprimand, I don't think so much that we're called to go around and reprimand the entire civilization, right? The entire society, the entire country, or whatever, sometimes we imagine I'm just going to, kind of throw it all out there. I mean, I guess if there's ways that we, sometimes we are called to preach the truth to everyone. But the reprimanding, I think, is typically going to be effective when it's from a person to person. From a friend who's already established this relationship, a brother or sister, family, good friends, coworkers, people that trust each other, right? Part of that is super important. When we were in the seminary, I will say I learned a lot about that and grew a lot in that area. It was super important, and I think for priests, I know, and it extends to everybody, you have to be able to be criticized. And you have to be able to have the strength to criticize others, to challenge others and to be challenged, or you're not going to grow. You're just not. Right? Like that's an integral piece of that. In the first couple of years in the seminary, when I was really struggling with that, both receiving criticism and also getting the courage to give it, I didn't grow a lot. But when I finally opened up and said, I need to listen to other people, even if they're not my best friend or whatever, or I don't like this, they have this flaw, they still probably, if they're offering in charity, I need to hear that. And I also need to get the courage up to be able to do the same thing, because that's where real growth happens, right? So we're called to convince other people, to reprimand, and then to encourage, right? To encourage other people. And that's a huge one today too, right? I think we live in, we talk about it a lot, but you know, every measure talks about the difficulties that people are in, the loneliness and the depression and all of the stuff that's going on in the culture that we find ourselves in. I think encouraging other people with the good news of the gospel too is huge. If we really can tell them, look, I see that you're hurting, and I want to help, and I'm with you, and Christ is with you, and prayer. Jesus talks about prayer in the gospel today. Tell people that prayers change your life if it has. You know, that coming to church has changed your life. People will listen to you tell your own story, right? They will respect that a great deal. If you say, this is my experience of Jesus Christ. This is my experience of the church. I was depressed too. And I found great things from reading the scriptures, from prayer. You know, I had anxiety. I had this or that, or I was lonely, or I you know, whatever it was. I was there too, but I found this thing, this person, Jesus Christ, right? And the teachings of the church kind of helped steer me. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I have a long way to go, right? That kind of thing speaks to people, because people are hurting. And you know that, and we all know that. People are hurting, maybe more than ever. Even though we obviously have so much wealth, there's a lot of pain out there in our culture, and in your neighbors, and in your coworkers, and within our own church too, right? So we have to be people that are encouraging each other too. So I want you to think about those three words: convince, reprimand, and encourage, and ask yourself, which ones of those do you struggle with? And then start working at them. We believe in our church that we get better as the more we practice things. And so I just want to encourage you to be a person who practices and knows that by trying to do those three things, you will see growth and you will begin to live the full gospel and not just parts.